Philadelphia in May 1787 was sweltering, shuttered, and suspicious. Delegates had been summoned to fix the Articles of Confederation, a modest repair job, most assumed. But James Madison, born in 1751, had spent months before the convention conducting an intensive study of historical republics and confederacies, and he had not come to Philadelphia to fix anything. He had come to replace everything. Madison's early life offered little hint of the architect he would become. He was born at Port Conway, Virginia, while his mother visited her parents on the Rappahannock River, a small, almost accidental beginning for a man who would redesign a nation. His father owned substantial estates in Orange County, and young James was educated first by a Scottish schoolmaster named Donald Robertson, then prepared for Princeton, where he entered in 1769. He finished Princeton's 4-year course in roughly 2 years, then stayed an additional year continuing his studies under President John Witherspoon, driving himself so hard that his health broke down and remained fragile for years afterward. That fragility shaped Madison in ways that raw ambition alone never could have. Contemporary accounts and his own correspondence suggest he feared he might not live long, and that concern lent his intellectual work an unusual urgency. Every pamphlet, every letter, every set of notes carried a sense of purpose difficult to sustain under ordinary circumstances. By the time he reached the Virginia legislature in the 1770s, he had already developed a habit of preparation so thorough it bordered on obsession. He didn't just study governance, he catalogued the precise mechanisms by which republics collapsed. What Madison brought to Philadelphia was the Virginia Plan, a document that scrapped the one-state, one-vote structure of the Confederation and proposed a bicameral legislature with proportional representation, a separate executive, and a genuine national judiciary. It was, in effect, a new country on paper. The delegates were supposed to be amending. Madison handed them a replacement. Keep that audacity in mind, because the backlash, when it came, would nearly destroy everything he had built. The rupture arrived fast. Smaller states revolted. They would never accept proportional representation. It handed power permanently to Virginia, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts. Voices rose, sessions stalled. Franklin reportedly urged prayer out of sheer desperation. The Virginia Plan was gutted in its most radical provisions, and the Great Compromise, equal Senate representation for every state, was the price of survival. Madison hated it. He argued against it on the floor. He lost. And then it got worse. Ratification required 9 of 13 states, and opponents, the anti-federalists, were organized, eloquent, and furious. They argued the Constitution created a distant tyranny, worse than the one the Revolution had just defeated. Madison's response was to co-author, with Alexander Hamilton and John Jay, a series of essays published in New York newspapers, the Federalist Papers, explaining, defending, and philosophically grounding the new framework in real time under pseudonyms, while ratification votes were still open. More than 80 essays appeared in under a year. The Republic's survival was the deadline. Ratification succeeded, but the promise of a Bill of Rights, made to skeptical states to win their votes, still had to be delivered. Madison, now in the First Congress, drafted what became the first 10 amendments himself, drawing on Virginia's Declaration of Rights and the flood of proposals sent in by state conventions. He shepherded them through a Congress that largely considered the exercise unnecessary. Without his persistence, the Bill of Rights might have died in committee, and with it, the fragile coalition that held the new Union together. Madison would go on to serve as Secretary of State, and then, as the fourth President of the United States, dying at Montpellier on June 28, 1836, the last surviving founder of the Constitutional Convention. What the title Father of the Constitution obscures is the stranger truth. The man most responsible for the document lost several of his most important arguments during its drafting. The Constitution that emerged was not Madison's Constitution. It was the product of compromise under pressure, which means the system's resilience was never really about one brilliant mind. It was about the process he forced into existence, one that could survive being argued with, even by its own author.